For a few years in the 1970s, the Mr. Asia Syndicate made millions.
Heroin creates its own market. It acts like a form of plague.
Until jealousy, betrayal and murder brought it all crashing down.
Then he just pulled out a gun, shot her in the back of the head, and then said to Wayne, "You're going to help me bury her."
This is Mr. Asia, A Forgotten History. All episodes now available on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
It might be Easter Sunday, but that doesn't mean a day of rest for James McOnie. Hello, mate.
No, indeed. Hello, Piney. Yes, it is the great Easter egg hunt today. I'm on a bit of a diet, so it's just actual normal, just size 7 eggs, but they're currently more expensive than the chocolate ones as far as I'm concerned, so it is a very expensive egg hunt either way.
Yeah, economically challenging, that's for sure. Auckland FC continue to hunt the silverware. They almost got the Premier's Plate last night. Inevitable, isn't it, that they'll win the Premier's Plate at home next weekend?
Yes, they should, and yeah, they will. But I did appreciate your tweet, Piney. Can we call it a tweet on X? Where
I think so, yeah.
You said we'll see you at Go Media next weekend. Bring a plate. Nice, Piney. Very good.
I thought that would appeal to your niche, kind of, perhaps sort of 80s, 90s sense of occasion. Yeah, bring a plate. Ladies, bring a plate, they used to say. I don't think you can say that anymore.
Shocking. You can't. But hey, look, the thing is that they're going to win the Premier's Plate. I know to Steve Corica and the team, it is a big deal. But there is the big battle for the toilet seat, which is the big one for the grand final. If people don't know what I'm talking about, it's a big silver circle that looks a lot like a toilet seat.
Yeah, 2 bits of silver were up for grabs. You'd have to think, wouldn't you, that if they win the Premier's Plate, that means they finish top. That means if they make the grand final, they host the grand final. I just can't see anybody coming to Auckland and beating them there in a grand final situation. Can you?
Well, yeah, possibly. But the thing is, it's because they've drawn a lot of games at home lately, Piney, and you've called them all. I've drawn 5, maybe even. I think they've had 5 out of 6 draws before this win at the weekend. Hey, one thing I was going to say is there's 3 things on the field and 2 crucial things off the field. I think they've got right, the Auckland FC. So on the field, I think they build from the back, right? The cheeky signing of goalkeeper Alex Paulson from the Phoenix. Their captain Hiroki Sakai's played World Cups for Japan, including the last one. So lots of good defenders and a great holding midfielder in Louis Verstrada from Belgium. Then the other thing they got a respected coach in Steve Corica, who's won titles as a player and a coach. And then getting players, this is the thing, getting their X factor from players with unfulfilled potential, because it's one way to get them to settle, if you like, for the A-League, to rebuild their brand and their career. And we've got that with guys like Francis de Vries, Cam Howison, and even the South Americans who are in their mid to late 20s, should be peaking, but for one reason or another, their career had stalled. So they did that perfectly. And then off the field, they made it attractive for kids. I mean, there's a giant slide there, for goodness sake. Even you'd love that, Piney.
Yes, I've watched it from afar. I haven't quite had the opportunity or actually the deep-seated desire to go down it, because I can only imagine it would end in disaster.
Well, I'm banned, apparently, because they said in terms of gravity and physics, there is a chance I'd go through a hot dog cart and end up on the field. So, I mean, that's the issue. That's why they actually put in that sand pit barrier there, the beach, to maybe allow me to go on the slide. But then also the port, those fans, the ultras, the ones who provide the atmosphere, packing out the terraces behind the southern goal. I mean, just having that kind of support straight away off the bat has been incredible, and that's why it's just been such a great occasion, afternoon games at Mount Smart.
Yep, perfect storm indeed. So next Sunday, likely to be another very, very big crowd as they perhaps look to secure that first piece of silverware, the Premier's Plate, before they go on, as you say, to have a crack at the toilet seat. Just before we move from football, Costa Barbarouses has been a bit of a bright, shining light in what has been a fairly disappointing season for Wellington Phoenix.
Indeed. I mean, I feel like Costa Barbarouses, we need to give him his flowers. He's got 10 goals again, which is in the A-League season, that's like 20 in the Premier League season, right? It's a half the amount of games. So he's gone past 10 goals again. He's mid-30s, and is still doing it at such a high level. I just think he's been underrated a bit too long. And after that World Cup qualifier, Piney, you and I were in the press conference, and I asked him about how he felt about that last World Cup qualifier against Costa Rica. He got a red card. He'd been on the field for 9 minutes. And he said that haunted him every single day.
Yeah.
He thought about it every single day. And I just thought, well, that just shows how much the guy cares, for starters. But also, I look back at that game, we should have started him. He was pretty much Pete Costa. He come back from injury. I know you've got Chris Wood, but not having someone like that on the field, I think, really costs you, because he is that good. And just because he's had most of his career in the A-League, don't get it twisted. He could have played in Europe, and he did play in Europe, but he's sort of found his groove down here, and it doesn't mean that you're lesser than a striker who's playing in Scotland or second division in England, right?
That's correct. I'm just looking back at the team for that game, and with no disrespect, Alex Grieve started that game ahead of Costa Barbarouses, presumably. And look, as I say, with no disrespect to Alex Grieve, and hindsight's always 20/20, I wonder whether Costa should have started that match.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a Ben Smith scenario. You know, Steve Hansen said, I regret not picking him at the 2019 World Cup. I think when you've got someone like Costa, assists, goals, he does it all, works tirelessly, cares so much about the game that it haunts him every single day since 2022. That's the kind of player I want playing for me.
Yep, indeed. And I really, really hope, and I think he will, get the chance to go to his World Cup in 2026. Of course, a goal scorer in the game against New Caledonia, which secured their place. Mm-hmm. Hey, Super Rugby, there are 5 games to go for most of these teams. I think the Reds have got 1 extra to play because they had the bye over the weekend. Chiefs, 32 points. Crusaders, 32 points. It's the good old-fashioned 2-horse race, is it?
Oh, it's back, baby. The Chiefs. They had such a shocker last week, but we had to take, listen to what Steve Hansen said all those years ago, flush the dunny and move on. Probably the wisest thing he's ever said. And we did that, the Chiefs. Damien McKenzie looking back to his old self. And Mone Narawa just having a really outstanding game. And Summer Penny Finau, like, finding some form. I mean, he has been an All Black. I sort of wanted that to happen. But meanwhile, the Crusaders just being so clutch in the wet. James O'Connor now, a Canterbury/Crusaders region hero. Who would have thunk it?
I know. Even saying the sentence yesterday, James O'Connor has sealed the victory for the Crusaders. It's such an odd sentence to say. It's been quite wet actually over the weekend, hasn't it, for some of these games? But I mean, they are. I know not anymore, but they are. Rugby is traditionally a winter sport. So is rugby league. So is football.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing about the wet weather, I think it hurts rugby the most because, the forwards stay in their pods, the rolling maul, the Brumbies, for example, against Moana Pacifica, they will suck the life out of any game. They are the vampires of rugby. And so any wet weather kind of kills rugby, I think, at the professional level. It's still good at club level because, there's the classic wet weather game in a bog, it's just a toss of a coin. But when you're asking people to come and watch and see something entertaining, I would say get a roof on as many places as possible. Obviously, Christchurch is about to get theirs. Wellington, we're looking at you. Even Hamilton, come on now. Auckland, hopefully, eventually, somewhere there's going to be a roof. But I think it would actually help Super Rugby in particular because this is the time of year where it just slows down. I don't think the rain affects league as much. And obviously, as a football guy yourself, Piney, there's plenty of good games in the rain. The ball skids on a bit. That's about it.
Yeah, and you ask anybody who plays football, and they'd say, "I'd rather, a wet day than a windy one." I think the wind is the thing that ruins more sport than anything else. You'd much rather play with a bit of drizzle than a howling gale. There
was one other thing that I noticed with your Hurricanes. It was a shame because they had a draw over at the Western Force in Perth. But there was a deliberate knockdown in the last final move of the game that the referee just ignored. And I'm just thinking, well, that's a yellow card, and because a try had been scored, penalty try, any other minute of the game, except for, clearly, extra time in Perth. I don't know if you saw it, but it'll be on Crowd Goes Wild tomorrow night. I will highlight it, Piney.
I look forward to that highlighting of that absolute miscarriage of justice. But I thought, did you see Callum Harkin though run away with the ball, and then he for some reason passed it as he was approaching the try line? Do you think I don't know, what was he doing?
Yeah, Callum Harkin. He was going to score. There was Nick White chasing him. He already had him for gas, I think. Nick White was just doing damage control, forcing him out wide. He passed an inside ball to Cam Roigard. It went to ground, and when he finished, after he passed the ball, he was standing on the try line. Yeah. So this is how crazy it was. That's one of the most unbelievable bomb tries. Yes, that will be on Crowd Goes Wild. I feel sorry for Callum Harkin. He just needs a few, workshops in spatial awareness, Piney, and he should be fine. But yeah, that was a bit of a shocker.
It was a strange one, a very strange one. Hey, Warriors, just before you go, I was pleased to see them win that game last night. Of course, I'm always pleased when the Warriors win. They almost blew it, didn't they? 18-6 ahead. Luke Metcalf with not the happiest night off the tee, but he nailed the one that mattered at the end.
Yeah, exactly. He had his James O'Connor moment. I think the Warriors they look like they bossed that game nicely, given I always look at the Broncos and think, how do they fit under the salary cap? There is no way. But we've talked about him before, Leka Halasima. Finally, we've got a player he can throw the ball to and just say, do something. He's just lightning quick, powerful. Too much zip when he's around those bigger forwards as well, because he's just he's nuggety and sort of squat. And that was kind of got the Warriors on the board, and you could see them building confidence. So good old Leka as well. And by the way, I was just thinking, while we're at it, we should mention incredible moments. Hoskins Sotutu's reverse pass against the Crusaders. Oh my goodness. Go and watch it if you haven't seen it. Could that be his mic drop moment? Because we know he wants to leave New Zealand rugby. But wow, of all the highlights of the weekend, that stood out.
Well, I mean, is that likely to be on The Crowd Goes Wild tomorrow night?
I think it will be. And I think Leka will be on there. And I'll tell you one other thing. I'm thinking Bolters, and we can talk about that next time we're on, Piney. But I think Brodie McAllister from Shirley Boys, shout out to Shirley Boys. Remember the name. I think he will be an All Black in the very near future. Well,
he's keeping Samasoni Tokiaho out of the starting 15, so you've got to be, reasonably decent player to be doing that, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. He's just made every post a winner since he's moved, and it means that Razor can choose another Crusader without him being a Crusader, so it's win-win.
Absolutely win-win. All right, James, well, look, great to get the chance to chat to you on Easter Sunday. Back to the egg hunt for you, and yes. If available, let's chat next Sunday, at which point we might be only a couple of hours away from that Premier's Plate touching down in Auckland.
Sounds good. Let's resurrect the chat next Sunday. Happy Easter, everyone.
See you, mate. James McOnie, huge part of our Sundays, including public holidays, long weekends, and any other weekend that other people might decide they're not available. He always says, yes, I'll take the call. And I'm glad that he did.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.